The episodes of Record Holder Shameless, which ran from 2011 through 2021. New episodes of The Chi debut Sundays at 9/8 Central on Showtime, with previous installments streaming on Paramount+. All right. And that's what's poppin'. I'm Camps on iHeartRadio.
Told you you're Mariano Rivera.
From the Audiovisual Consultation Studio, this is KVET-AM Austin, iHeart Radio Station, the exclusive audio home of NBC's coverage of the 2024 Paris Olympics.
How's your Tuesday going? That badly? No. That well. Okay. Whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever it might be, glad to have you with us, as always, here on the program on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone. My name is Craig Way. Thank you very much for joining us. Joined, as always, or almost always anyway. He was in Oklahoma City last week. He'll be with us one more day this week. Then he's off to Pinehurst, North Carolina. But when he's here, which is nearly all the time, he's Cameron D. Parker. The D on the birth certificate stands for Dallas, as in the Cowboys, the team of his father's rooting interest at his birth, and still is. And it was Cameron's as well, at least through the 2023 season. He has since pledged not to watch them, but to continue to follow them. We'll see how that all works out when we get to the fall. So here it is on a Tuesday. How's your Tuesday going?
Not too bad, Craig. Excited for this week. It is the U.S. Open, the 124th U.S. Open at Pinehurst. And so far, the videos I've seen on the course are very tasty with the turtleback greens. Players not been able to land a lot of approach shots on the green. You know, there's all kinds of – there's a Smiley Kaufman, who is going to be one of the on-course reporters for NBC's coverage this week. He posted a tweet, Craig.
Yeah.
And I think you would love this because Smiley, what they do is they'll give, I guess, the
what's
media,
his last name?
Kaufman.
Smiley Kaufman.
Mm-hmm. He played golf at LSU.
Okay.
He became famous because he was sponsored by Natural Light.
Oh, nice. Natty Light guy, huh?
Natty Light guy. Anyway, he was given a list of plants at Pinehurst number 2, Craig. And I'll show you the screenshot here. Look at all the plants on those, and look at some of the names that are
common
use.
fleabane, Plains coreopsis. I know what a Virginia creeper is.
Mm-hmm.
I know what that is. In fact, I've hiked on the Virginia Creeper Trail before up in Virginia. Winged sumac. I know that. Stay away from sumac. It's not good. It's like poison ivy.
Indian blanket, horseweed.
Yeah, horseweed.
Henbit nettle, harefoot clover.
Yeah.
Dog fennel.
Yeah. Butterfly weed. I think I ran into somebody who was selling some of that on the corner the other day. Wandering cudweed. Yeah. So anyway, that stuff's all around it. That's very, very common to the sandhills. Really is.
Yeah. And his tweet was, he put out a tweet. He said, "How's that lie down there?" Well, it's sitting near some Chinese forget-me-not, but I say more of the ball is on the Mexican clover. In his backswing, he may have some false foxglove to worry about, but the big concern is follow-through in the morning glory. Now, anyone listening to that is probably just like, what in the world did he just say? But hey, those are types of plants that are on Pinehurst number 2.
I love that. Takes me back.
Yeah.
Actually think about, because there was a lot of that stuff.
So when I'm there Saturday, I'll try and figure out if I can identify the woolly croton plant.
Okay. Cam is going to go to the third round. He's going to attend the third round of the United States Open Golf Championship at Pinehurst number 2. Say, where are you guys staying, by the way? Did you get a cabin deal out there, an Airbnb, going
Airbnb
motel?
in Asheboro?
You're going to commute from Asheboro there every day?
We're just there going for one day.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's
That's right.
just about an hour drive.
Okay, so you're going to stay in Asheboro, and it's yeah. And you see if you're going over and you go down 22 through Coleridge and Bennett, High Falls, an hour 10, hour 15, something like that. But it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Okay, all right. Well, that's good. In the meantime, we have Cameron here today and tomorrow. Cole Dixon, who was here last week when Cameron was up at Oklahoma City. Cole will be here through Thursday and Friday. Now, since we're on the topic of the U.S. Open, we'll get to other topics. Clearly, the field of 8 is set for the College World Series in Omaha. It's an all ACC SEC affair. First time that's ever happened, where just 2 conferences were represented in an 8-team field. There is game number 3 of the NBA Finals is tomorrow night in Dallas, but there's other NBA news to get to. Dan Hurley saying thanks, but no thanks to the Los Angeles Lakers. There's NFL notes to get to as well, but I want to keep it with the golf just for a moment. I didn't see this until this morning. Of course, it was this morning when Jon Rahm walked into a news conference in Pinehurst with a golf shoe on his right foot, a flip-flop on his left foot, and had a toe separator in there. Toe infection. And that's what caused him to withdraw from the LIV event in Houston last weekend. He said he described it as a concern as to whether he can play at the U.S. Open. Could I have dragged myself out there and posted some kind of a score? Yeah. But it was getting to a point where I wasn't making the swings I wanted to make, and I could have hurt other parts of my swing just because of the pain. As to right now, playing this week, I don't know. So it's a lesion or a cut he suffered in between his pinky toe and the next toe on his left foot. Doesn't know how it happened. Doesn't know how it led to an infection. He said the infection is now controlled, but there's still swelling and there's still pain. So I know everybody, well, the betting favorite was at the shortest odds to win the Open since Tiger Woods, I believe, going into 2009 or something like that. Is Scotty Scheffler. I get that. But if you remove Jon Rahm, a U.S. Open champion, from the field, that's one less impediment to Scotty Scheffler winning the Open if it winds up working that way.
Yeah, U.S. Open champion. And there's not a lot of those left in the field and one within the last couple of years. But big news in looking at the way Jon Rahm has played this year. It's been disappointing. He was asked today, like, are you happy with your year? And he kind of fired back and said, well, you guys, the media, you guys say I'm not having a good year. I mean, arguably, he's not. He's played 2 major championships this year. The Masters, where he won, finished 45th, in the PGA, where he missed the cut. He withdrew at Houston this past weekend. And he's had some close finishes on the LIV Golf Tour, but it's so hard to
Wait a minute, where did he finish with the Masters?
T45.
T45. Okay.
Yeah, was not really a good week for him.
Yeah.
And the PGA missed the cut at a tournament where the final score was -18.
Right.
A tournament, you expect Jon Rahm, a major championship winner,
to at least make the cut.
Exactly. And there's some good golfers missed the cut there, so it's okay. He's had a lot of top 10s on LIV Golf, but also remember, a top 10 on LIV is completely different than a PGA Tour event where you have a cut in 3 times the size of a field for some events. So it's kind of hard to quantify that data, but it is a big blow, especially for those who may have been thinking about Rahm as a sleeper pick. But also, he withdrew from last weekend, which tells you it's probably a big enough injury that he's worried about. And there's a good chance we don't see him play this week, which would be sad because, it would be fun to see Jon Rahm drop a couple of F-bombs after his ball rolls off the 5th green on Thursday. So I guess we'll just have to stick with Tyrrell Hatton on that.
Who does more F-bombs during a competitive round? Him, Tyrrell Hatton, or Jordan Spieth?
Spieth's been sneaky up there this year, especially the way he's been playing. That's a good question. Probably Rahm or Hatton are up there.
Okay.
Hatton will flip the bird at some point during a round to the hole or to his golf club or to his putter. Well, he'll do like the English version where you kind of like I don't know how to describe it. What would you
That's the
say?
Bafangu.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that's what he likes to do a lot.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyway, all right. So there was some U.S. Open stuff. We'll have some more on that, but we've got to talk about the travel and the interregnum in the NBA Finals, Boston and Dallas. We'll get to that. Florida Panthers now up 2-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals. They won last night. Impressive in the third period. They were 1-1. It was like you said, Cam, if you can win 2 of the 3 periods. They won the first period and the third period. Edmonton took the second, but in the third, Florida was able to pull away. They are halfway to their first ever Stanley Cup. They're up 2-0. And then, like I said, the College World Series. You have that. And it's 4 ACC teams, 4 SEC teams. There's a lot of symmetry to it. And I'll explain that. We'll get that coming up. Not necessarily the best thing in the world for college baseball, but there is a lot of symmetry to this particular field. So we'll get to all of that and more. Obviously, as always, we open up the text line to you. All you have to do is text the word Texas, followed by your question or comment to 81530. You text the word Texas, followed by your question or comment to 81530. Standard messaging and data rates may apply. You are also you're also invited to avail yourself of our TalkBack feature. If you download the iHeartRadio app, you want to send us a voice message like we had yesterday. You can, somebody wanting Cameron's review of Nick's Grill in Oklahoma City, that's fine. If you want something else, you want to ask us something else or make a comment, keep it clean, please. But you're certainly welcome to do that. And if it's, worthy enough to put on the air, we'll do it. We'll stick it on there and let you hear your voice on there as well. So we'll do all of that. We got some Major League Baseball to discuss as well. So all that and more coming up here on a Tuesday afternoon. You know how I feel about Tuesdays and driving. It was actually a little bit sedate today. It wasn't too bad, but normally Tuesdays are the worst day of the week for the Monday through Friday commute. This is Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone and the iHeartRadio app. It's a Texan Tuesday here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone. So, as is Cameron Parker's Bent, our return cuts feature Texas arts. Now, those of you listening on the podcast hear something different there with regard to that. But here, live and in living audio, you're going to hear Stevie Ray Vaughan, like you do right now during the 2 o'clock hour. And you're going to hear Willie Nelson the 3 o'clock hour. And you're going to hear the King, George Strait, the 4 o'clock hour. That is how we roll it on the Tuesday. Since we're talking about Texas, let me hit a couple of Texas items before we jump in the NBA and some other things. It did become official Saturday night that the University of Texas did win the Learfield Directors Cup for the third time in the last 4 years. That's the award, the trophy that goes to the Division I collegiate athletic program that is most successful based on its successes on the field, the points accumulated for wins, conference championships, NCAA tournament appearances, advancement in NCAA tournament appearances, like whether they get to a Final Four or a national semifinals in an event, a college football playoff, also a college World Series for softball or baseball, NCAA basketball tournaments, advancement through that, and of course national championships, which carry high point values. So with 2 national championships won this season at the University of Texas, and 5 NCAA top 2 finishes, the national runner-up in 5 other sports, they won it, and it took into the final weekend of men's and women's track and field for Texas to pass Stanford. And they did on the final weekend. They amassed 1,339.5 points. And Stanford finished second at 1,312 points. And so also the advancement or Texas being able to land in the NCAA tournament in baseball helped, where Stanford did not. If you're unfamiliar with it, I told you a little bit about this, the points amassed. Stanford had a 25-year stronghold on the Directors Cup. North Carolina won the first one in 1993-94. And then the Cardinal won it 25 years in a row. And Texas finished as the runner-up in 01-02, 02-03, and 04-05. But then they finally passed them for the first time in 2021-2022. And then they won it again in 2023. And in the 2023-2024 season, Texas registered NCAA team titles in volleyball and rowing, back-to-back championships for volleyball, 3rd national crown in the last 4 years for rowing. They also had runner-up finishes in women's swimming and diving, men's tennis, and softball. They had 8 top 5 and 12 top 10 finishes as well. So anyway, they qualified 19 of their 20 NCAA eligible sports for the NCAAs. And I think women's cross country might have been the only one that didn't. So there it is. Another win for Texas in the Directors Cup there. And I heard somebody describe this probably in a way that I think is probably pretty accurate. Because when all of this got tweeted out on social media, naturally there's going to be a little blowback from fans of other schools going, big deal, you won in volleyball, big deal, you won in rowing. I get it. I understand all that. They also made it to the college football playoff in football, and they were in the second round in the NCAA tournament, men's basketball, and the Elite Eight in women's basketball and stuff like that. So there were other accomplishments in other sports as well. However, I understand somebody, I think, put it best and said, if you win it, it's going to be trumpeted by the school and it's looked at as accomplishment. If you don't win it, you move on and it's no big deal. That kind of thing. That's how I think schools look at it. But since 1993-94, there's only been 3 schools who've won it. North Carolina won it 1 time. Stanford won it 25 years in a row. Texas has won it 3 out of the 4 years. The 1 year in the 3 of the last 4 was last year when Stanford won again. So I understand. If some other athletic programs won it, then you'd probably hear, the amount of trumpeting about that. It makes sense. But the guy who posts all those standings every time somebody goes, well, we'll do LSU, how they do head at LSU and the old system and OU and all this, and they compete in almost the exact same number of events in sports as not only schools like LSU and A&M and Oklahoma, but other ones as well. So anyway, congratulations to the university on that. Now, that's one thing. The other thing I was going to get to, we have some updated game times for football that were released today. We already knew, as what came out, I guess, last week or thereabouts, that Colorado State, the season opener, was going to kick off at 2:30, and everybody was grumbling about the heat about that. The Michigan game's at 11 a.m. Texas time kickoff. And we learned that the UTSA game was going to kick off at 6 o'clock in the evening. We learned that. And the Oklahoma game, 2:30, and there was grumbling about that. And like I said, I'm on record saying I got no problem with the 2:30 kickoff for OU. First of all, it's not going to be brutally hot. We're in mid-October, okay? It may still be warm and pretty warm, but it's not going to be like 100 degrees in mid-October. It's just not going to be. But they've announced some other kickoff times. The fourth non-conference game against UL Monroe, which, of course, was added when Texas joined the SEC because the SEC is playing only 8 conference games, not 9. So they had to add a fourth non-conference game, and they did. It's Louisiana Monroe, UL Monroe, Saturday, September 21st. That was announced today. It's going to kick off at 7 o'clock at night. And then the Florida game on November 9th is going to kick off at 11 o'clock in the morning, home game. The Arkansas game is going to kick off at 11 o'clock in the morning in Fayetteville. And then in addition to that, this is something that the SEC does, among many things that the Big 12 Conference does not do. They give you early notice on approximate windows instead of finding out, say you'll find out 6 days out. For example, we now know that the SEC conference opener for Texas on Saturday, September 28th against Mississippi State is going to be in what they call an afternoon window. It's going to be either 2:30, 3, or 3:30. It's going to be in the afternoon. We know that the Georgia game is in what's called a flex window. It won't be earlier than 2:30. It won't be later than 7 o'clock, but it'll fall somewhere in that window. The Vanderbilt game, afternoon window, 2:30 or 3:30. The Kentucky game, flex window, could be as early as 2:30, not earlier. Could be as late as 7 p.m., not later. Same story with the Texas A&M game on Saturday, November 30th. And for those of you still waiting for that to change into either Thanksgiving night or Black Friday, it's not going to happen. It's going to be on Saturday, November 30th. And it'll either be 2:30 in the afternoon, anywhere up till 7 o'clock at night. So we've got some early indicators of where all that is. But as well as some definite kickoff times like the ULM game on the 21st at 7 o'clock at night. The Florida game is 11 o'clock in the morning. The Arkansas game is 11 o'clock in the morning. I cannot remember the last time when Texas had already had this many kickoff times already formed. The first 4 games, you had those, then Oklahoma, then Florida, then Arkansas. 7 of their 12 games, we already know the kickoff time for.
Isn't that awesome, Craig?
It is.
Isn't that great?
It is. So that's another sign about, how things go in the SEC. We already know that 7 of the 12 times for that. And I do think that the fact that we know that Mississippi State on the 28th is an afternoon window, probably going to be 2:30. Could be 3:30, but it won't be later than 3:30, and it won't be earlier than 2:30. Georgia, could be as late as 7 o'clock at night. Prime time could be that, but it could be 2:30 in the afternoon.
The other flex scheme for that, the Georgia Texas week, Alabama Tennessee is the other one in the same flex spot. So I'm assuming the networks are kind of waiting to see
what kind of starts these teams get off to.
because there's a good chance Georgia Texas could be number 1 versus number 2, or probably going to be 2 top 5 teams. You
Could
would
be.
think College Game Day, you would think primetime ESPN college football Saturday game of the week.
Could be. Very well could be. So we'll see. But it's good to have the kickoff times of the other games. I mean, we know now Arkansas is going to kick off at 11 o'clock in the morning. And I can tell you, and I'm not normally a fan of 11 a.m. kicks. People that know me know that I'm not a fan of those. In that case, I'm perfectly fine with it. It's not at night when it's cold, and also when things can get unruly up there in the hills in Fayetteville. So I'm fine with 11 a.m. on that. And then we'll see what happens with those last 2 games. Like I say, it's a flex window based on, I think, as much as how the other teams are doing, as much as it is how Texas is doing as well. So there's your flexed and nailed down kickoff times. 7 of the 12 games, we now know the kickoff times for Texas for the coming season. All right, up next, we have Inconceivable here on this Tuesday afternoon, which comes your way next here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone and the iHeartRadio app. Here's Inconceivable on a Tuesday. And we start off with a topic that's very near and dear to the heart of Cameron Parker. We speak of Buc-ee's. We did mention yesterday that Buc-ee's was going to open, and they did open the world's largest Buc-ee's travel center yesterday, not too far down the road from us in Luling, down 183 there. It's 51 miles south of Austin, 75,000 square feet, roughly 1.5 times as big as an NFL field.
That's insane.
Yeah. Although I'm told it's not going to be the biggest. There's another one that's going to go up, I think, in Ocala, Florida. It's going to be 80,000 square feet. That's going to be bigger when they get it done. There are now 49 locations of Buc-ee's in 9 states since their first expansion in 2003. They're based in Lake Jackson. And Texas has 35 of the 49 locations. They also have the world's longest car wash. And I've been through this Buc-ee's car wash. It's the location in Katy off the west side of Houston on I-10.
Oh, interesting.
255 feet of conveyor for the car wash there on that. So they've opened the new Buc-ee's. So I know you're excited about that.
So I'm looking at the map here. I'm trying to think of what high school football games would take me through Luling. So it looks like Shiner, Gonzales, Yoakum.
Yeah. Or the Luling Eagles. You could see Luling.
Yeah.
You could see the Luling Eagles. You could see them.
Even Cuero. So what it's off of Highway 10 looks like. So I guess
it's right by 183 and
how
I-10.
often do you pass that area during your time?
Not often.
Okay.
It's like I'm going to Corpus, like to do baseball or something like that.
So I'm kind of surprised in why they're putting it in Luling then.
Because it's about halfway between San Antonio and Houston.
Okay.
It's a great stop-off point between San Antonio and Houston. That's why. It's kind of at a junction because it's 50 miles south of Austin. So the people coming north from Corpus and parts south, as well as the east-west travelers. Oh, it'll do a healthy trade. Trust me. That one's going to be just fine. And we'll see, when the new world's largest one, when it opens in Florida, I think
Ocala.
See
how far that is from my mom.
Not far. Well, she's in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
It's closer to Orlando than it is Jacksonville, but it's drivable. A couple hours maybe at most. Something like that. Go down I-4.
So it looks like for those if you're traveling from Orlando to Gainesville, then you're gonna. So that's picking up a lot of Disney World traffic. Looks like from those coming up from the southeast.
Yep. That's where the world's largest one will be. But for now, the one in Luling is the world's largest Buc-ee's there. One thing Buc-ee's does offer is, among other things, donuts. But I've pointed out about Krispy Kreme of late. They've been active. They're going to be doing this massive rollout into McDonald's. Well, now, as part of this, they're, what they call their donut holes that people commonly refer to as donut holes, those centers, the parts of the donut that get extracted out and consumed separately. They call them donut dots at Krispy Kreme. They're offering 4 additional donut dot variations in addition to the regular original glazed. So they've got these new ones, powdered, sprinkled, cinnamon, and cookie crumb. There'll be permanent offerings on the Krispy Kreme menu. So like here they are right now. And by the way, if you do buy any dozen of those, you can get any dozen of regular donuts, you can get $1 for the donut dots. They come 10 to a cup there, or you can buy the big box of it. So they're getting ready on the rollout of that sort of thing. Okay.
Donut holes are my weakness.
Are they really?
If I go to Round Rock Donuts and he can only get one thing, it's donut holes.
How many could you eat in one sitting?
I remember I would go with my uncle or grandma and I would ask for 2 dozen. And I would make it through about a dozen. And then I'd be like, I'm out.
Okay.
But they are my favorite menu item at Round Rock Donuts.
Okay. Here's a complete shift. I like keeping up with what's going on with dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
A family's out hiking in the Badlands of North Dakota.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden they saw something sticking out of a rock. They looked over and looked at it. And they said, I believe that's a dinosaur leg. That's a fossilized leg. Sam Fisher, his sons, Jessen and Liam, aged 10 and 7, and their cousin, Caden Madsen, who was 9, had been amateur fossil hunters for years, and they knew that the area, the Hell Creek Formation, was rich with them, kind of like Dinosaur Valley up there in the Paluxy River near Glen Rose, where Dinosaur Valley State Park is. They have the most famous T-Rex skeletons in the world. Well, sure enough, they found another one, and then they found a neck bone connected to the head bone. Anyway, a duck-billed dinosaur. Look, see how the head was connected, that they ultimately that they unearthed there. So now this giant T-Rex fossil, which is kind of very rare to find that, but they did. So congratulations to that family. Okay. You follow sports auctions, right?
Yeah.
You remember Tom Brady's final game in the NFL?
Lost to Dallas Cowboys.
Very
in the
good.
playoffs.
In the wild card playoff, January 16, 2023. A piece of memorabilia from his final game has now been sold. Tom Brady's game-worn pants. Sold his pants, according to Gray Flannel Auctions. Care to take a guess what they fetched?
5 figures?
Oh, yeah.
More than that?
It's
no, I'm sorry. 6 figures. 6 figures.
No, it's 5, but it's
Okay.
not far. It's just south of 6 figures.
Okay. So like 85,000?
$89,100 for a pair of Tom Brady's breeches. How about that? Gray flannel things. Now, speaking of breeches.
How's that even work, Craig? How, like, does like the team decide to give it to someone who decides to sell it? Or
I wonder if he got them and then gave them up to that. So I don't know. It didn't say.
give it to his cousin who decides to sell it? Yeah.
Yeah. They're saying now that the Muhammad Ali trunks worn in the iconic Thrilla in Manila fight with Joe Frazier in 1975 are expected to sell for $6 million.
I believe that.
So now up for auction, expected to go certainly between 4 and 6 million. A current bid of 3.8 million at Sotheby's, but they're thinking it could be later than that. Okay, 2 other items here. This is really cool. D-Day, you had a lot of centenarians there, 100-year-old guys. Then some. Harold Terrans, 100 years old, decided to do something else. He'd been going for the past few years. He got married right near the spot where he and nearly 160,000 others landed on June 6, 1944 in the fight against the Nazis.
Wow.
Yeah. He attended the 50th, 70th, and 75th anniversary, and he ended up getting married to his longtime friend and fiance. And he said, we're having lunch with a friend. He said, I like your girlfriend. She's pretty nice. Why don't you get married? So he did. And then finally, the one other thing, they were handing out degrees, recently. Vermont State University's Castleton campus, honorary doctorate to a cat.
That's awesome.
A cat got it. The cat's name is a doctor of literature, as they say. So Max is his name. 6-year-old tabby. Apparently he's been all around campus and walked in classrooms and down the hall and all this other stuff. So they gave the cat an honorary doctorate. All right. We'll be back to wrap up hour number 1 here on Sports Radio AM 13 Under the Zone and the iHeartRadio app. What do you got rolling here, Cam?
Go back to the instrumental of Houston's own Travis Scott.
Okay. All right. A little instrumental activity there. Hey, I know there's been a lot of talk about Caitlin Clark mission from U.S. women's basketball. We talked about USA basketball, and the selection committee basically said they didn't believe she had enough high-level reps to be a member of the group headed to the Paris Games. Now, however you feel about this decision, good, bad, warranted, unwarranted, whatever. One thing is for certain, this committee has some pretty learned names on it, including Jen Rosati, who was an All-American at UConn, played Olympic teams. She's the committee chairman. And she said the committee was aware of all the outside noise and the pressure to select Caitlin. She said, quote, "Here's the basketball criteria that we were given as a committee, and how do we evaluate our players based on that? And when you base your decision on criteria, there were other players that were harder to cut because they checked a lot more boxes. Then sometimes it comes down to position, style of play for Coach Reeve, and then sometimes a vote." And she said age was never brought up in any of the discussions. They think she'll be good. And for all the stuff about growing the game and the marketing of the game and the popularity of the game, Jen Rosati's comment was, and I quote, "It would be irresponsible for us to talk about her in a way other than how she would impact the play of the team. Because it wasn't the purview of our committee to decide how many people would watch or how many people would root for the U.S., it was our purview to create the best team we could for Cheryl." So there were other players left off the team. Ariel Atkins, the Texas ex, was left off. Shakira Austin, and Aaliyah Boston, Arike Ngumbawali. A lot of folks feel she should have been on the team as well. So anyway, Ogunbowale is second in the league in scoring in the WNBA. She's played every game. She's averaging over 26 points per game. So however you feel about the whole thing, understand this part. The USA basketball is not interested in the impact of whether it grows the game or not, or the marketing for the sport. They say they're trying to put the best team on the floor to win at the Olympics or whatever. And I could understand some people being upset with that. And I can also understand people agreeing with that. And the reality is also that they're going to win the gold medal. If they don't, it's going to be a major shock, whether Caitlin Clark is on the team or not. Second hour of the program coming up right here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone, where you always find us for free on the iHeartRadio app. We continue here. Hour number 2 of the program here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone. Craig Wade, joined by the producer, Cameron Parker. Glad to have you with us. Some feedback from hour number 1. Somebody telling me that it is raining in Sun City. There's something symmetrical about that. It's raining in Sun City. Yeah, in Georgetown. Yeah, my wife Linda just texted me. She said it's pouring rain there on the north side of Georgetown where I live, which isn't that far from Sun City. Said it was pouring rain there. So that's good. It's nice to get there. Our friend, he is our friend. He's a very loyal listener. He says, as he likes to call himself, completely blind Ryan. Ryan is also a really big Texas Rangers fan, as he has let us know. And he's continued to ask us questions, which the answers for which we don't have, and I'll explain why in a moment, about the reason about the Texas Rangers not being on radio in this market. They were on across town, but the stations across town, at least on over-the-air terrestrial radio, have signed off. They're not on the air anymore. There's app listening, digital listening, but not for Texas Rangers. And he says, why was there not a plan for the Round Rock and Austin Rangers, Texas Rangers radio network? You always have somebody fill in for you whenever you cannot make a Longhorn sport, whatever it is, the reason why you cannot make it. One has nothing to do with the other, Ryan, and I hope I can answer this in a way that clarifies it as best. We don't know what goes on at the other place. We don't know. We're not in their building. We don't make their decisions. There are signed contracts that have the Round Rock Express on the zone. So you can't just dump that out and start throwing the Rangers on because the other place has signed off. We have no control over that. That would be like asking Burger King why McDonald's drops the McRib after only doing it seasonally. We're not in their building. What is it? Who is it they used to like to say? Oh, Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. Somebody asked Mike Gundy, hey, why do you think the Longhorns are better at running the football? I don't know. I'm not in their camp. He used to always say that. I'm not in their camp. Ryan, I hope you understand. We don't know their business model or why they make the decisions that they make. We can only tell you what we do. Okay. And I hope that answers the question. Where you continue to ask us questions about the Rangers not being on at the other station. We're not affiliated, connected to, or associated with the other place in any way, shape, or form. So we don't know. We don't know why those decisions were made. I'm not irritated. I'm just letting you know. I've answered it the best way I possibly know how to answer it. So hopefully that answers and addresses the question for you. Okay. Anyway, the other stuff that we wanted to get to is the College World Series field is now set, and in the College World Series, you are going to have 4 teams from the Southeastern Conference and 4 teams from the Atlantic Coast Conference. That's it. 4 teams from each of those leagues. It is the first time in the history of the College World Series since they went to 8 teams. Remember, they had 4 teams in 47, 48. Texas played in those first 2, and then of course Texas won back-to-back national championships in 49 and 50. And those were the first years that they went to 8 teams. And 49 was the last year. It was not in Omaha. It was in Wichita, Kansas in 1949 when Texas won. And then in 1950, when the Longhorns won it, it was the first year at what was then Municipal Stadium, became Rosenblatt Stadium in Omaha. And those were 8-team fields. Never in the history of the College World Series has it been a situation where all 8 teams came from only 2 conferences. That's never happened before. But maybe we really shouldn't be shocked by this because, after all, the ACC and the SEC were the 2 most dominated conferences this year. They were 1 and 2 in the RPI from day number 1. The SEC was number 1. The ACC was number 2. Now, here's what I meant when I said last hour about there's some symmetry involved here. And if you were going to have only 2 conferences represented, it would be really cool if each of the 4 games played on day one had an ACC school against an SEC school. That is not the case. However, half of them are. 2 of them are head-to-head ACC or SEC matchups, and the other 2 is an ACC against an SEC school. So here's how it works out. The first game of the entire tournament this Friday is an all-ACC game, North Carolina and Virginia. North Carolina is the 4 seed. Virginia is the 12 seed. Remember, the 5 seed Arkansas got knocked out. They lost in their own home regional first to Kansas State, and then they lost to Southeast Missouri State, and then K-State ended up winning that regional, and then Kansas State fell to Virginia in Charlottesville. So it is the 4 seed North Carolina, which had to be extended to a final game against LSU in the regional. In fact, went down to the bottom of the 9th, or went to the 9th inning needing to get a run to tie, which they did, and they won it in extras. And then they swept West Virginia to win the Super. So it's the 12 seed North Carolina against the 4 seed North Carolina against the 12 seed Virginia. So it's an all ACC matchup. The second game is a split, SEC versus ACC. Tennessee, the number 1 overall seed, which did not drop a game until Super Regional. They lost game 2 to Evansville and then won game 3. And they play Florida State, who did not drop a game at all in either regionals or supers. And it is Tennessee against Florida State. That's the 1 against the 8. Okay? So you have 1 all ACC matchup and 1 ACC against SEC. That's bracket 1. Bracket 2, you have the first game on Saturday. Both of those games are on Friday, by the way. The North Carolina-Virginia game is at 1 o'clock, and then at 6 o'clock is Tennessee and Florida State. Okay? Then bracket 2, which starts on Saturday, 1 o'clock game, SEC against ACC. Kentucky, the number 2 overall seed, North Carolina State, the 10 seed. In case you missed it last night, North Carolina State played long ball and just kind of battered Georgia around. They ended up winning 8-4. So Georgia, the 7 seed, out the 10 seed. NC State advances. They play Kentucky, the 2 seed. The winner of that then would get the winner of the game Saturday night, all SEC matchup. Texas A&M, the 3 seed, Florida, unseeded. Unseeded is Florida, the only unseeded team that was not one of the top 16. Remember, Florida got into the tournament with a 29-27 record. And a lot of people said they did not deserve to be in the field. And they went to Stillwater, dropped 1 game, but won the other 3, and then won that. And then they went to the Super Regional and won the Super Regional in 2 straight over Clemson. So Florida is the only unseeded team in there, and they're playing Texas A&M, the 3 seed. So here's the symmetry. You have 1 all-ACC matchup, 1 all-SEC matchup, and they're on opposite brackets. Then you have an ACC versus SEC and another ACC versus SEC, and again, in opposite brackets. So it's split about as evenly as you can split it up in terms of the bracketing there. Even for having just 2 teams, 2 conferences represented. And it'll run all the way to 2 weeks from yesterday, if necessary, to be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, if it comes down to that. So we'll see how it goes with the College World Series in Omaha. All right. Next up, NBA Finals. We'll talk about some injury updates on that and get to some other topics when we continue on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone and the iHeartRadio app. The immortal Willie Nelson, 91 years young. Which particular Willie Nelson selection did you go for?
This is a collaboration. So obviously Willie. The song is titled "Just Breathe."
Yeah,
and I believe he's collaborating with. Do you already say Lucas Nelson? Lucas Nelson and hold on, Promise of the Real.
Okay,
It's one of his older, or I guess older, one of his newer tracks coming out. I don't really know a lot about Willie's discography, but this is something new.
Okay,
I believe
more recent.
Yeah, more recent.
Okay, it is a Texan Tuesday here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone. Tomorrow is a Dallas Wednesday because
Is that new? Dallas Wednesday? Is that going to be a thing? Do I need to prepare accordingly, Craig? I thought it was Yacht Rock Wednesday.
well, it is.
Okay.
Oh, I just sounded like Jerry speaking it out. Well, it is, and it's Yacht Rock, and I'm smiling when I say that. I know it sounds a little trite, but Yacht Rock is one of my favorites. I was thinking of the Dallas Mavericks, who once more, speaking of the drama, may be playing a Boston Celtics team that has to go without Kristaps Porzingis. Porzingis said today, or the Celtics announced it, that he has a rare injury to his left leg.
Please read off the injury description the Celtics provided.
All right. Okay. All right. It's so this rare injury to his left leg. So here it is. I'm just looking at it for the first time. The Celtics announced that Porzingis has a torn medial retinaculum, allowing dislocation of the posterior tibialis tendon in his left leg.
Sure. Yeah, because I know exactly what that is. Oh, yeah. I think I suffered the same thing last night playing pickup basketball.
Yeah, it when you just read it, it sounds like he's got an eyeball in his leg, a retinaculum, like that's a retina, like you have in your eye. A torn medial retinaculum, allowing dislocation of the posterior tibialis tendon in his left leg. He had a right calf strain that caused him to miss the 10 postseason game. This is the left leg that this has happened. Happened in the third quarter. They said the two injuries are unrelated. He thinks he'll be on the court for game 3, but he said that Sunday. And he had a black sleeve covering the lower left leg today. He told reporters he will, quote, do everything I can to be out there tomorrow. So he has not played a game in the American Airlines Center in a 2.5 years since he was traded by the Mavericks to the Wizards. And then, of course, he joined the Celtics in the trade last summer. That's interesting deal there if he's out. Also, reports came in that Luka Doncic had to get a pain-killing injection to numb the area of his thoracic contusion.
Oh my goodness.
So he had that in there in the chest cavity. I was wondering if he's going to play because that sounded not good. You know, the knee and the leg, yeah, they're nagging and they go on and you do what you can do and all that sort of stuff. But a thoracic contusion, and he had a pain-killing injection to get through that. They said he's going to get another one for game 3. They asked Luka today, how you feeling? What's he going to say? I feel good, he said. I don't want to get into any more details, but I feel good. Okay. He was downgraded to questionable in the afternoon of game 2, was not deemed available till after pregame warmups. So what does he do? He played 42 minutes. He had 32 points. He had 11 rebounds. He had 11 assists. He had 4 steals. He joined Jerry West, Charles Barkley, and LeBron James, who'd done it twice, as the only players to have a 30-point triple-double in an NBA Finals loss. I knew when they said Jerry West and when they said Charles Barkley, it had to be a defeat when I first started to read this. a 30-point triple-double in a finals loss. LeBron did it twice. And Jerry West and Charles Barkley won each. So Luka joined that dubious club.
Yeah, club you don't want to be a part of.
Yeah. I mean, you think of all those NBA finals went to, I'm going to do this off the top of my head. Okay. Jerry West joined the Lakers in the 59-60 season. They were not in the finals in 59-60. They were in the finals in 60-61, 61-62, 62-63, 63-64. They were not in 64-65. They were in 65-66. They were not in 66-67. They were in 67-68, 68-69, and 69-70. That's 8 times when he was a member of an NBA Finals team that lost. They lost all of those. He did win one, 71-72, when they had the 33-game win streak, when they beat the Knicks. He has one world championship ring as a player, and of course, several as a front office exec, GM, president, whatever, for those Showtime teams in the 80s.
And with Golden State as well.
And with Golden State. So, but anyway, so Luka's also had the sprained right knee. He doesn't think that injury is going to heal until he has time to rest. It's still going to give him trouble. He's also had left ankle soreness. That's listed on the official injury report since game 3 of the second round against Oklahoma City. He's played in all 19 games of the Mavericks playoff run, leading all players in several statistical categories, including points, rebounds, assists, steals, and minutes played. That might be as impressive as anything. The points, the rebounds, the assists, all of that is big. But to be able to do that and lead the team in minutes played while you have those injuries is a problem. So that's pretty impressive for him to go through all of that, lead the team in all those categories while dealing with those 3 injuries.
Yeah, and if you're a Mavericks fan, I mean, you don't like hearing that. I mean, it's incredible what he's doing in the finals, but you always worry about players now in this day of age, and maybe Luke is just built different mentally, but you always worry about when guys, they get so close and they're doing so much that they decide, you know what, I'm just going to try something different. Like we saw with LeBron, he was on that list of dubious names to not win an NBA championship, and he went to Miami and teamed up with Wade and Bosh, and it's different. I've never seen anything that sounds like Luka wants to leave Dallas, so it's just all just hearsay. But the Kristaps piece is very interesting, Craig. Now it's a great day for Twitter doctors, because I saw like hundreds of Twitter doctors reply to those tweets saying, "Oh, he's done. He can't play again this series," or "He's fine. He'll play this week." So congrats to all the Twitter experts out there who are diagnosing Kristaps after not seeing anything except for a tweet from Wojnarowski. But he was walking around the day at TD Garden, or the American Airlines Center. He was walking around and was joking around with coaches. Now, of course, maybe he is out for Game 3. Maybe he's out for the entire series. But his presence has been huge, Craig. I mean, he is in this series plus 25 differential off the court. Overall, the series between Dallas and Boston has a plus 25 of plus 25 point differential. So he's been a big impact. Now, obviously, it's not just Kristaps. It's been Jaylen Brown's offense and defense, and Drew Holiday's defense, and Kyrie Irving struggling. The corner three's not going. There's a lot to it. But Dallas not having Kristaps, or the worry about having Kristaps out there offensively and defensively, could be what maybe does change this series. I think back to Golden State in Cleveland, Craig, the 3-1 series, when Andrew Bogut missed the final 3 games of that series. Now, of course, a lot of people point to Draymond Green in his ejection, being suspended in that Game 5, but Bogut missed those last 3 games, and he was a huge part of Golden State's offense and defense, and the reason why Cleveland was able to come back. So if Kristaps is out for this series, this does give a lot of hope to Dallas. It's just we'll wait, and of course, Boston's going to play it close to the chest here. Mazzulla said it was day-to-day. They're not going to give out any information. We'll find out in the first quarter whether he checks in or not off the bench.
somebody or tweeted this out. I'm gonna see if I can remember the deal. I'll tell you what. I'll think about it during the break. It was something with Joe Mazzulla, which was pretty funny to hear his response to a specific question about it. So I'll look it up during the break. And
was it his response to Kyrie Irving being called a fill-in? He was like, "Well, we're all fill-in in somebody's eyes."
No,
all right,
it was.
Joe.
I'll tell you what it was.
Dang,
it was a question about. It had something to do with Big Three or Three Musketeers or something. And he said Big Three or something. He said, "You mean Jesus, Mary, and Joseph?"
Oh my goodness!
And they were like,
"Is it Mazzulla?"
Yeah. And somebody clarified and said no, and they named this, that, and that. And he goes, "I'm not real familiar with that. I'll just stick with the other three," or something.
I have it pulled up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have the audio.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Let me pull this
Yeah,
audio.
yeah, here it is.
So it's Mazzulla from, looks like it was 2 days ago.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it was after the game, I think. Uh-huh.
This is not it.
This is not it, but let's look what he has to say. Silence. Uncomfortable silence. Real uncomfortable silence.
Okay, so that was not it.
That was not it, but it was a deal. It had to do with a thing of three, and he wasn't familiar with it. And the three that he was familiar with, the triumph.
Here we go.
All right.
I had a
Royal
– what in the world, Craig?
That was it. That was it. He was asked, "Did you get a chance to meet with the royal family?" He went, and without hesitating, he went, "Jesus, Mary, and Joseph."
With a straight face too.
Yeah, and she kind of chuckled and went, the prince and princess or whatever, the prince and the duchess or whatever. I'm not too familiar with them. I'm only familiar with one royal family. I give him credit. He sticks to his line of thinking. Nothing wrong with that. It's just in the moment the exchange comes up because, like you said, he's completely serious about that. And you can tell she was completely thrown off and started laughing about that because it wasn't a joke to him. It was just how he looked at it. That's just the way that was. So, all right. If you like hot dogs, I have hope for you.
Oh, man.
I got hope for you. Okay?
Speaking of inconceivable, Craig.
Yeah. Yeah. Stand by for that story coming up next here on Sports Radio AM 13 Under the Zone and the iHeartRadio app. Texan Tuesday. What are you hitting us with here? Yeah.
Coming back with some Gary Clark Jr.
Mm-hmm. Always enjoy hearing some Gary Clark. You've kind of incorporated him into the rotation as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's
nothing wrong with that.
Good music. You know, I like his style.
I had gotten a text. Well, first of all, you said there was a text from someone who was viewing us on YouTube. Is that right? Didn't you tell me?
Yeah. So Brian Schoen
Brian
reached out on Twitter.
Okay.
Of course, if you want to watch the live stream of us, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, Craig Way Show on AM 1300 The Zone. Make sure you like and subscribe. But yeah, you can comment. And Brian
the
Schoen,
announcer says, they have faces made for radio. Yeah, we get that.
That is great.
How does Brian spell his last name?
Schoen.
It could be Shane.
Okay.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be Sean. Could be Shane. But anyway, he was saying.
Oh, he's just saying good afternoon, Craig.
Hey.
And hello from Dublin, Georgia, not Ireland, Georgia.
Dublin, Georgia. Okay. Good to hear from you, Brian. Thank you very much. Our man on the text line, CB, was referring to something that I didn't even see CB's text until we got into the break when I was checked in the text line, but we're on the same page, CB, because I was looking at it as well. How about this headline? Sponsor conflict keeping Joey Chestnut from hot dog eating contest. Joey Chestnut is the 16-time champion of the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest. But Major League Eating, I love that. Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, Major League Eating. We'd all like to say we could be major leaguers in that department, right? Major League Eating. But Major League Eating says that he will not compete in the annual 4th of July event. A spokesperson for MLE, Major League Eating, told ESPN that Chestnut had chosen to represent another hot dog brand and therefore would not be allowed to participate in the Nathan's contest, which is held annually at Coney Island. Of course, he's been competitive eating's biggest star. He's won the event 8 straight years. He reportedly agreed to a sponsorship deal with Impossible Foods, a company that makes plant-based hot dogs, and a competing company, the Nathan's Famous Hot Dogs. So, Major League Eating said in a statement, quote, "We're devastated to learn that Joey Chestnut has chosen to represent a rival brand that sells plant-based hot dogs rather than competing in the 2024 Nathan's Famous 4th of July hot dog eating contest. MLE and Nathan's went to great lengths in recent months to accommodate Joey and his management team, agreeing to the appearance fee and allowing Joey to compete in a rival unbranded hot dog eating contest on Labor Day. For nearly 2 decades, we've worked under the same basic hot dog exclusivity provisions. However, it seems that Joey and his managers have prioritized a new partnership with a different hot dog brand over our longtime relationship." Joey Chestnut owns the top 10 performances at the Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest, including the record set 3 years ago when he downed 76 hot dogs and buns.
Man.
He ate 62 Franks and buns to win last year's event. They said, and they're still praising him, MLE, Major League Eating. Quote, "Joey Chestnut's an American hero. We would love nothing more than to have him at the Nathan's Famous International Hot Dog Eating Contest, which he has dominated for years. We hope that he returns when he's not representing a rival brand." I get it.
It just sounds like money here, Craig. That's all it is. It's just money.
Well, here's the thing also. Here's a dude that scarfed down 62 weenies in 10 minutes last July. And now you're going to tell me he's gone vegan? Really?
Mm-hmm.
You ate 76 hot dogs in 10 minutes in 2021. But you got to go plant-based now. That's the deal? A little late in the game, I would think, to kind of flip it. I guess it's never too late, you know?
Well, I think if, depending on the size of that check, you can go vegan, right?
I suppose so.
And there's some other stuff in there about how he competed in a no-name hot dog eating contest because Netflix was doing a documentary, and it sounds like Nathan's wasn't too happy with that. But He probably got some money from Netflix and from the other hot dog company for participating in that contest. And I'm sure whatever this plant-based impossible food type brand is probably gave him a lot more money than the 1.2 million that Nathan's was offering. But how about the fact that in 2024 you can make $300,000 a year for eating hot dogs one day of the year? Isn't that pretty insane to think about?
Is that his deal?
That's what Nathan's offered him and what he turned down. So my thinking is he was offered a 1.2 4-year contract. He was paid $200K this past year to appear in it. My guess is this vegan-based thing probably gave him more money than that, right? Or something, a longer contract, whatever it is. It's got to be more than $200,000 just to be a part, just to be an endorser. And maybe there is some food eating contest down the line that'll be involved in this, but
Labor Day.
$200,000 just to appear in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. If you were given $200K, would you do it?
I would not try to eat that many hot dogs in 10 minutes, not even for $200,000, because I wouldn't live through it. Wouldn't be able to enjoy it.
Could you do the 999 challenge?
Which is?
Go to a baseball game.
Right.
9 innings.
Mm-hmm.
9 hot dogs, 9 beers.
No.
I think I could probably do 2. I would do 2, and then I'd be like, you know what? I'm my stomach hurts.
I don't even know if I mean, I guess I could probably get through 2. Normally, my ballpark routine is if I go to a ball game, I'll have a hot dog, and sometimes a footlong. If they have good footlongs, they do at. I will tell you this: they have good footlongs at Minute Maid and at Globe Life, and Dodger dogs are the top, of course. And, but if my sons just went to Boston to see Tigers Red Sox as a graduation gift for my youngest son, who's a Red Sox fan, and they each had a Fenway Frank, and they said that was wicked awesome, a Fenway Frank. But if I go and I have a hot dog, I'll have a hot dog, my standard fare, hot dog, bag of peanuts, 1 beer of the local beer that is the brand of that ball club. So the White Sox for years, it used to be Heileman's Old Style. Some used to call it Heileman's Old Pile, but had one of those. Let's see.
Carbach, right? Is that the Astros?
Carbach is,
that might be the Rangers.
And Rangers, there's that. I've done, obviously, Budweiser. I've done Miller up in Milwaukee. Dodgers, I did, what's it called? It's the Mexican brand, something Jalisco.
Okay, yeah.
I've done that. That's a big one. I've done all manner. I've had 1 beer of the home brew of the ball of the ball club. That's just my thing.
I have had a Coors at
Coors Field. Okay. I probably would. I haven't been to Coors Field. That's one of the 5 ballparks I have yet to visit, but I would probably do that. Whatever they were serving in Miami last year, I had, and same thing in San Francisco. But in most of the ballparks, it's a major brand, and if that's their official beer, okay, fine. Whatever. If you go to Jerry World, he wants you to have a Miller Lite or a Pepsi.
Dr. Pepper at one point.
Yeah. He's got Pepsi products now working at his place. All right, we'll be back to wrap up hour number 2 on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone. Okay, we head to the top of the hour and a little bit of breaking golf news on the eve of the start of the United States Open, Cam.
Jon Rahm from his official X account. After consulting with numerous doctors in my team, I have decided it is best for my long-term health to transfer to the cleats. No, I'm just kidding. To withdraw from this week's U.S. Open Championship. To say I'm disappointed is a massive understatement. I wish all my peers the best of luck and want to thank all of the USGA. So Jon Rahm withdrawing after a little athlete's foot. What it sounds like.
Whatever it was. They said it was a lesion.
That would come from athlete's foot, right?
Could.
Not addressing it.
When I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I had athlete's foot problems. I played baseball and stuff. It was not good. The stuff that worked best was stuff that just like burned like
crap,
like the fires of hell. It was just, and I remember my dad would have to put that stuff on my feet, and I hated it. And what he would do is he would then have me sit down in the living room, and he would turn on like a big box fan. I could put my feet up by the fan and let them cool off.
Goodness.
Yeah, it hurts. I had it until I was probably 13 or 14. It was like when I was like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, right in that area. I had issues with that when I was playing Little League Baseball and on the other. So I had problems with that. I finally was able to shake that. So, yeah, no laughing matter for Jon Rahm with the foot infection. So he's out. Wow. So, yeah, that's going to be different. Him not being in it as a recent champion. That's big. And I know we talked about this in the first hour of the program. I know that it is the considered opinion of most everybody that Scottie Scheffler is an overwhelming favorite. I didn't even see. I don't know how close attention you pay to the actual wagering odds and how that works. But supposedly the shortest odds for him, the best odds for any golfer to win the U.S. Open since Tiger in 2009, I think it was.
And it was the same way at the Masters, and he did win. So he's proven Las Vegas is correct so far each time. I'm trying to figure out, because with Rahm now withdrawing, that means someone else got in. It looked like Sergio Garcia got in yesterday, not because of Rahm, but because of somebody else dropping out, looks like. So I'm curious who that is.
Interesting. Okay. Do you like the pairing of Scheffler, Rory, and Schauffele?
Oh my goodness!
How about that for the first two rounds? That's an A list, isn't it?
Rory McIlroy might be the worst golfer out of the three right now, which is saying something.
It's final hour of the program coming up on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone. Final hour of the program here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone. Craig Way alongside the producer, Cameron Parker. So we take you up till 5 o'clock. I understand we've had some rain in here. I look outside. First, we were getting folks on the text line who said, yeah, up by Georgetown, Sun City. My wife told me the same thing. She texted in and said, well, we're getting some good sized rain here. And then we saw it just looking outside the window here from the iHeartRadio compound here astride the Pennypacker Bridge, hard by the Colorado River and Lake Austin. And it looks like it's slackened now, but it has rained earlier. On the text line, our man CB had texted in something before, and I hadn't even noticed it until we got to the prior break before, but I'd had the story ready to go about the Joey Chestnut thing. And he said, apparently, breaking news, apparently Joey Chestnut was just banned from the Nathan's 4th of July hot dog eating contest. Not banned, he chose not to participate because of the rival brand. And what did we say that rival brand was called? Impossible Meats. And because it's plant-based. You know, just like, was it Burger King has the Impossible Whopper? And you've seen other things like Impossible Sandwich. Had somebody tell me, you know why they call it Impossible, don't you? And I said, because it's plant-based? And they were like, no. They call it Impossible because it's impossible to even think of it being anything like a real hamburger or a real hot dog or a real sandwich. I don't know. I've had a couple of garden burgers in my life, I think. I had one at the old Players right there on MLK, loved Players, and had one and it was actually pretty good. Had one another place, not so much. Wasn't that good. But no, the one I had at Players was pretty good as well. The Round Rock Express are back home to start a homestand with the Tacoma Rainiers coming in. And word seems to be that we're probably going to see Max Scherzer in another rehab assignment for the Express. And I'm trying to remember, did you actually get to see him, call him, or did you just miss him by one day when you were?
I missed him by 2 days.
Yeah, in Oklahoma City. But you did get Johnny Cueto, right?
Got Cueto, got Jack Leiter, got Bobby Miller.
Mm-hmm. How Bobby Miller looked to you?
Looked pretty good.
Yeah.
His fifth inning was a little bit tough, but I talked about it on the broadcast, and the same thing with Walker Buehler, where these guys have been pretty open about the level of adrenaline is not the same when you're pitching in low A ball, rookie ball, single A, double A, triple A, as it is when you're pitching in front of, X amount of thousand at Dodger Stadium.
Sure.
And Walker Buehler, he really struggled in his rehab assignments. Mm-hmm. And now, Greg, he's obviously had a pretty good season, right?
He's off to a pretty good start. He was shaky the first start, better the second, really good the third, not so much the fourth, and then came back afterwards. He's been pretty good since.
And he said, and this was a direct quote, where he wasn't trying to be demeaning to Oklahoma City, but he's just like, I can't wait to feel the adrenaline that you get from pitching in Major League Baseball. Mm-hmm. I don't feel the same way in AAA. And for Bobby Miller, in his 2 rehab assignment starts prior to last Friday at Rancho Cucamonga.
Yeah, the Quakes.
His velo was down, and Dave Roberts was asked about it. He was asked about it, and he was like, hey, it could be mechanical. It also could just be I'm not fired up enough to, because I'm just not pitching. He was throwing about I get the 98, I think, against Round Rock, which is pretty good. He's hit triple digits, I believe, on the monitors a couple times, and he might get up to Los Angeles and just be on the same thing that Buehler did. Now, obviously, Bobby's pitched this year, so he might be a little bit more fresh. Or Walker hadn't pitched in almost 2 seasons, so it's tough for those guys, and you don't really think about it. You just think, oh, he's pitching. Why isn't he striking out the side? He's pitching against lower level guys. That's not really the case all the time for these dudes.
I've often been puzzled as to, and this is a question I'm going to ask Gene Watson when we get him on this week, but I think I know at least part of the answer to it. I've often been puzzled at the decision-making process of a big league club when they're getting a guy ready on a rehab start, a pitcher. Why some will give him a rehab start at AAA and some will give them a start like at low A ball. You'll rarely see double A. And I know I've been told, I think Reed Ryan told me this, and I think Gene has said it as well. Your best prospects to be major leaguers are at double A, not triple A, because they're the younger ones that are on the rise. For the Rangers, that would be Frisco. But Round Rock is ones who it's kind of on the bus ride, so to speak. The ones that are called up, the ones that are called down. They're essentially big leaguers. Just about all of them. The stories are there about those who've spent, the Crash Davises of the world that spent their time, got as high as AAA and played hundreds of games at the AAA level and never got a cup of coffee at the big league level. Those stories exist. They're real. But for developmental purposes, the ball clubs will tell you their best prospects are at double A. That's where, and I might also add that double A, Keith Moreland taught me this a long time ago, and Keith's going to be on with us tomorrow. We rescheduled. He was supposed to be on last Friday and had some things come up, but he's going to be on with us tomorrow to preview the College World Series. But we'll talk some big league ball as well with Keith. And as I take a sip of water here, Keith also says, really, double A ball, that's the cutoff point. Double A ball is the litmus test. Double A is where you find out if you can push through the wall and make it to the big league level. Many outstanding college hitters who were fabulous at, what was then short season rookie league ball that doesn't exist anymore since minor league contraction, but single A ball and then up to double A. They've been really, really good. But when they get to double A, a lot of times that's where the breaking balls really start to take their effect on these guys. Same story for pitchers. To be able to get big lead hitters out, you got to be able to get them out of double A, certainly as well. So that's, that happens with that. The Major League Baseball power rankings are out for this week. And this is from MLB.com. And Will Leach is the writer for that, and he says there's only 30 teams in baseball. So by definition, there's only so much of a jump you can make in 1 week. He says the Dodgers are always in the top 10, so even if they go 7-0 in a week, they're only going to go up so far. Same for the teams at the bottom. If the White Sox win 7 straight this week, they're still not going to be in the top 20, which is why it's so remarkable what the Reds did. They went up 12 spots in the rankings from 24 to 12. Part of this is because they won 7 straight before the winning streak ended on Sunday. But a bigger part of it is just how jumbled the standings are. There are currently 11 teams within 4 games of playoff position in the American League and 13 within 3 games in the National League, including 7 teams within 2 games of each other. 1 win streak will shoot you up these rankings, and you're always 1 skid away from falling right back down. So, their rankings, Phillies are number 1. They've been number 1. They've been really, really good. Yankees are number 2. The Dodgers went up 1 spot from 4 to 3 after taking 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. Teoscar Hernandez, the National League Player of the Week, he had a monster weekend. I know Aaron Judge did as well. Teoscar Hernandez actually outplayed him at Yankee Stadium during the course of the weekend. Baltimore went up 1 spot from 5 to 4. Cleveland continues to be on the rise, but they dropped 2 spots from 3 to 5, but they've been really good in most areas. Milwaukee held at number 6. The Royals, number 7 in the power rankings.
How about that?
In MLB right now. So they're currently 39 and 27. So they've been really good. The Braves dropped a spot from 7 to 8. The Mariners went up 1 spot from 10 to 9, and the top 10 finished with the Twins, who were at 10. The Rangers, you're wondering, 16, dropped 1 spot from 15 to 16. The Astros are 17. They went up 1 spot from 18 to 17. It looks like Alex Bregman's starting to swing the bat really well for the Astros. Toward the back in Arizona, which was the National League champion a year ago, is number 20. The St. Louis Cardinals. What has happened to the Cardinals over the past few years? They're now number 23. And then as you get toward the end, Oakland is not the worst team. They're number 26. It's not the Angels. It's not the Rockies. It's not the Marlins. No, it's the White Sox. And they write, sometimes it's the simple things. After the White Sox lost a franchise record 14 straight games, they went out and won 2 in a row against the Red Sox, the first back-to-back wins in nearly a month. Manager Pedro Grifol didn't complicate matters. He goes, it's fun to win. Sucks to lose. That's the way he describes it. All right.
Rangers and Dodgers this week, Craig.
Yeah, out at Chavez Ravine after they had last year went to one of the games in Arlington, the Friday night game in Arlington. But yeah, they're out in LA this week. The Dodgers, as good as they've been at times, they're weird to figure out sometimes. They dropped 2 out of 3 in Pittsburgh to the Pirates, then go to New York and win the first 2 games of against the Yankees. And could have won the last game and didn't, but they beat the team with the best record, the Yankees, 2 out of 3 there. So we'll see how they do against the Rangers, if the Rangers can jump back into it this week.
Hope so.
Rangers also have a big series against the Mariners this coming weekend. They need to handle their business against. Yeah. All right. We'll have more coming up here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone and the iHeartRadio app. You know, out of all of his number one hits, 50, 60, however many, he's got truckload of number ones. This is probably as well known as any. Even my wife, who was not much of a country music fan and did not know much about the King, George Strait, knew this song. She knew it. I told her that's because your ex lives in Texas, and she's like, no. But, and he does, but by the way, she might not like me even saying this, but I get along with her ex.
Yeah.
We've been to some.
That's good.
Here's a bit of irony for you. He's a University of Texas graduate.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. We've had some decent conversations about stuff. She said to me once, in another parallel universe and another thing, you two probably would have been good buddies. I said, that just tells you what a long-suffering person you are to do that. But anyway, the King, George Strait.
This is probably on the list of songs that no matter what your background in, what background you are from, or what genre of music you listen to, if this song comes up at any event, it's probably one that everyone will sing together.
Because they know it. A lot of them really, really know it. And it's not that difficult to figure out. You know what apparently is difficult to find out? It's apparent, or difficult to determine. It's apparently difficult for the Los Angeles Lakers to hire a new coach.
Yeah, no kidding.
It looked for all the world as though Dan Hurley was going to take the job. That he'd done and accomplished pretty much everything he could accomplish at the collegiate level. He'd won a national championship. He'd won multiple national championships. He'd won back-to-back national championships. So, that's a, I think it apparently was, a done deal, fait accompli, that he was definitely going to take the Lakers job. But he made a point of pointing out in his news conference that family was really, really important to him. And saying that, what was the statement? I'm humbled by this entire experience. At the end of the day, I'm extremely proud of the championship culture we have built at Connecticut. We met as a team before today's workout, and our focus right now is getting better this summer and connecting as a team as we continue to pursue championships. He turned down a 6-year, $70 million offer from the Lakers. He would have been one of the 6 highest paid coaches in the league. But he already had an offer from UConn to become one of the highest paid NCAA coaches. Money, I don't think, was really that kind of an issue. But, in New England, especially in the state of Connecticut, I've noticed this. Statewide politics has to get involved with this. And the governor of the state of Connecticut, Ed Lamont, was in contact with Hurley throughout the weekend. He told reporters,
of course he was,
that the state will make sure he's the top paid college coach. After the 2022-2023 season, he signed a 6-year, $32 million deal. He had the option of taking over, the Lakers, certainly one of the most famous franchises, but he ultimately decided to stay at UConn. And he's going to try to become the second program to win 3 straight national titles. UCLA, of course, won 7 in a row from 67 through 73. They're the only other one to win 3 in a row. The school says they're thrilled that he's staying. And so now they're going to go back to trying to get ready to repeat again. So where do the Lakers go? What do they do now?
Who knows, Craig? This entire storyline has been so weird. So, Darvin Ham gets fired, right? And of course,
and I thought Darvin Ham did a good job with him.
Yeah, I think he did a fine job. I think when you coach the Lakers, you're not really coaching the Lakers. You're the assistant coach to LeBron James, is what it really is like. And Ham gets fired. And of course, when he gets fired, The Athletic drops an article the same day written by Shams, basically completely trashing Darvin Ham as the problem and saying, he wasn't listening to the front office, wasn't listening to players, all this, basically painting him as the bad guy. I don't buy that. I don't buy these, these kind of assassination type articles that come out right after coach is fired, because obviously Shams was a great reporter, but his info is being fed from the Lakers. So that happens. Red flag right there.
So he's going to villainize Darvin Ham then.
Yes, same thing happened with the Phoenix Suns when they fired Frank Vogel. When it's like, this is more the front office than the players. But for the Lakers, now the coaching search starts, and you're hearing the names of JJ Redick and James Borrego, the former Spurs assistant who coached in Charlotte for a little bit and then was let go of Charlotte.
And now he's a Pelicans assistant.
Now a Pelicans assistant. So we're hearing all these ties about Redick, and it sounds like it's going to be JJ Redick. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just randomly, Hurley becomes part of the conversation. And not only a part of the conversation, it becomes he's the number one guy. He's going to meet with him and all this. And then it comes out that he's going to stay with UConn. And then it goes back to Redick and Borrego, but it's put out that, the Lakers actually have not really had conversations with Redick and Borrego, but now they're going to start. None of this makes any sense, Craig. All of the breadcrumbs from this entire coaching search have been so weird coming from the Lakers. None of it makes sense. And there's the Woj piece of this, which is Woj actually wrote a book about the Hurley family a few years ago.
Adrian Wojnarowski, for those who don't know.
From ESPN. So, and he's the one that's been reporting everything with Hurley. And then there's the Shams side of it, who was actually throwing shade at Woj today on whatever ESPN, or not ESPN show, whatever Fox show he was on. So there's some sort of weird battle between him and Woj again. Obviously, remember Shams his mentor was Woj when Shams was at Northwestern, and he got hired on, and now they kind of compete. All this information is weird. And I don't really know what any of this means. What it means is it doesn't matter, because the Lakers are not good enough to win an NBA championship. Even if they make a trade for Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, doesn't matter. But all this entire media circus storm around this organization, around this coaching search, why would you want to coach there? And that's what, I have Lakers fans who are upset at Hurley. It's like, you know what? It's probably if you want to actually coach, don't go to the Lakers, because you're not going to coach. Look at Darvin Ham. I mean, he gets pointed as the blame. Frank Vogel, who won an NBA championship, was pushed out by the Lakers. LeBron has had now 8 coaches in his NBA career. And sure, some of those probably weren't great. Probably didn't have great coaches all around. But at the same time, when is LeBron the problem here? And if you're Hurley, who actually enjoys coaching, and we've seen the disconnect between coaching the college level and the NBA, I think about Jim Boeheim at Michigan, right? He won a national championship.
John Boeheim
gets the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Cavs players complained about him because they didn't like his coaching style, because he actually coaches. In the NBA, not every coach is a coach. Not every NBA player can deal with the Tom Thibodeaus and the Popoviches and the Mike Budenholzers. But when you get LeBron, you're playing on LeBron's team. LeBron is the GM, coach, and the leader of that team, and it doesn't gel well. And, I don't think you could pay me enough to want to coach on that Lakers team. So for Hurley, this makes all the right sense in the world. A great move. I think you'd rather go coach for 20 other 9 franchises than the Lakers.
Darvin Ham, meanwhile, is going to be Doc Rivers' top assistant in Milwaukee. I think Darvin Ham's a good coach, and I do. And it would have been difficult, I think, for anybody to be as successful down in that situation. And maybe the, maybe Dan Hurley figured that out and thought that it isn't going to, be that great to be in. Although a lot of this just has to come down to what you want, what you pursue, what your goals are, what means an awful lot to you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to coach in the NBA? Was that your thing? Then maybe that's the goal or whatever. Darvin Ham went 94-70. He had a trip to the Western Conference Finals in 2 seasons. And of course, he returns to Milwaukee. He spent 4 seasons as an assistant, was part of their NBA championship team in 2021. It's that old thing about, did he forget how to coach? No, of course not. But sometimes the fit ends up not working out, or at least not how some of the players, or certainly how the Lakers wanted that. So that's where it is. Dan Hurley, staying at UConn, and now the Lakers are back at square one and trying to figure out what they're going to do. If they're going to go ahead and go after JJ Redick or James Borrego or somebody else, who the target will be for them on that.
It's always weird to me, Craig, when you think about some of the greatest players of all time, but also who their coaches were. I think with the Lakers with Pat Riley, Jordan with the Bulls with Phil Jackson, and obviously Shaq and Kobe with Phil Jackson.
Yep.
All the Spurs players with Popovich.
Yep.
I would think, and obviously LeBron, I think he's had the greatest career of all time. I think Jordan is the greatest player of all time. I think LeBron's had the greatest basketball career.
It's interesting.
It's interesting to me that we have a lot of great coaches, and it seems like none of them really have an urge to coach LeBron in the NBA. We've seen it on Team USA with Steve Kerr and Coach K and others, but if you're a really good coach and there's some on the market, you don't see many of those like really dying to coach LeBron. That's I mean, of course you're dealing with a big personality, but to me, that speaks volumes.
Mike Brown, I thought, did about as good a job as you could do with him.
With that roster, for sure.
Yeah. And now they love Mike Brown in Sacramento.
And LeBron's greatest stretch in basketball was coached by Eric Spoelstra, who I think is probably a top 3 coach in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right. We've got some other topics to get to when we come back here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone and the iHeartRadio app. Yeah, he's a resident, well, a native of Texas. People say Dallas for Boz Skaggs, but if the truth were known, while he is a native Texan, he's not from Dallas. He's from Plano, just up there. When Plano was a little bitty town, and he was he learned a lot of music there in North Central Texas. So in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex. He's 80 years old and still rocking it. Lynn and I saw him at the Paramount last year, age 79. He's still cranking it out there. Boz Skaggs here on this Texan Tuesday. I have an update that will definitely interest you, Cameron Parker, and it will interest anyone in this state who closely follows and is interested in things that are going on with high school sports in the state of Texas. I've explained this many times, especially I have felt the need to do this because there are a lot of people who think that every single UIL rule comes from 5 people sitting in a brick building on Manor Road. That is where the UIL headquarter building ends, and that's about where the similarities end between folks' take on that. The people who make the rules for the University Interscholastic League are not in that building. The people who make the rules for the UIL are all across the state of Texas. They're superintendents, principals, school administrators. They are the ones who draft policy. They're known as the Legislative Council. It's people that represent every part of the state of Texas that are part of this Legislative Council. They are the ones who present ideas to the council. Now, the ideas come from their constituencies, obviously, coaches, teachers, parents of student athletes themselves. But if they have an idea about policy that they would like to see changed or added or deleted or whatever, they make their suggestions or lobbying or whatever they want. But it's the Legislative Council that's made up of school administrators, primarily superintendents across the state of Texas, who make the policy. So anytime there's a change with athletic structure and the thing that raises everybody's eyebrows, playoff structure, it's not the people in the building on Manor Road. It's not the executive director, Dr. Charles Brydup, or the assistant executive, the deputy director of the UIL, Dr. Jamie Harrison. I mean, they're there when the policy's going on, but it's the Legislative Council that comes up with it. Well, the Legislative Council has met this week and has come up with these decisions on proposed rule changes in UIL academics, athletics, music, and policy. Now, listen closely to this. The Legislative Council has passed an amendment for split divisions in the postseason for volleyball, basketball, soccer, softball, and baseball. You know what you're used to seeing in football: 6A Division I, 6A Division II, 5A Division I, 5A Division II, all the way down to the 1A six-man level, 1A Division I, 1A Division II. It's going to happen in other sports now.
Wow.
This has been brewing for some time, and this change would allow for split divisions in the postseason for 2A through 6A volleyball, softball, baseball, 4A to 6A soccer, and 1A up through 6A in basketball. What does that mean? You're going to have 2 state champions, just like you do in football. So you will then have state champions, 2 state champions in 6A, and 5A, and 4A, 3A, 2A, and 1A. And it would create 2 state championship brackets for teams to advance through the postseason for these conferences in volleyball, softball, baseball, soccer, and basketball. The amendment would follow the current 6A football championship structure. all of the schools would remain in their assigned district per the 24-26 alignment. The Standing Committee on Athletics moved that the Legislative Council passed this amendment to be effective August 1st of this year, if approved by the Commissioner of Education. So just kind of to swallow it a little bit and understand what we're talking about here. You know how in football you have in 5A Division I and 5A Division II, you know before the start of the year that Liberty Hill is now going to be in 5A Division I. You know before the start of the year that Cedar Park is in 5A Division I. You know before the start of the year which teams are like in 4A Division II or 4A Division I. You know that. The only one you don't know that is in 6A, they wait until they get to the playoffs and you take the top 4 teams and the 2 highest enrollments go Division I, and then the next 2 enrollments go Division II. Regardless of where they finish first, second, third, or fourth, as long as they finished in the top 4, they go into the playoffs. That's how they're going to treat basketball, baseball, volleyball, soccer. That's how they're going to do it, just like the 6A structure. There's not going to be an advance split. Maybe that comes down the road. But to start this off, you're going to go all the way through the season, and then just like in 6A with football, the top 4 enrollments will go into the play. The top 4 finishers will advance to the playoffs. Of those 4 finishers, the 2 highest enrollments will go Division I. The other 2 enrollments will go Division II. You still have to finish in the top 4 to get into the playoffs. Tell you what it gets rid of. It gets rid of 2 things. No more 96-team brackets. You won't have a regional quarterfinal anymore. You won't have district champions getting byes. Like what when you were doing Round Rock against Vista Ridge and Vista won, that Vista got a bye, right, in the first round?
No, they had a first round game.
There was somebody that got the way they do it in a 96-team bracket, you would have the regional quarterfinals. And it worked back. You're not going to have that now. You're going to have 2 64-team brackets is the way that's going to work. So you're going to have 2 64-team brackets. And you will, and then they'll play it through all the way through to state. The other thing it's going to take care of, you're not going to have a state tournament anymore.
Oh, wow. That's right. Yeah.
You won't have, well,
technically,
you won't have a state tournament. You'll have state championships in the Alamo Dome, but the semifinals will be played at like neutral sites or playoff sites.
They won't be at Dell Diamond or
right. It could be at Dell Diamond, but it would be as a state semifinal. It would not be as a state tournament semifinal. You wouldn't have that. Only the state championship games for each would be at that predetermined site. They could theoretically, if the coaches agreed on it and there was availability, play a baseball state semifinal at Dell Diamond, but it won't be like what we just saw. That'll be going away. And I know a lot of folks who go, wait, how could they? Why would it? This is your superintendents across the state voting this in because in large measure, it allows for more teams to get into the playoffs, and you're going to have split divisions and 2 state champions. And before anybody jumps up and hollers, it's watered down, you don't hear any complaints about that when you get to football season. Everybody's happy if they won a state championship or if they made the playoffs and got a chance to be in the playoffs. So that's an update. It just happened today. And assuming it gets approved by the Commissioner of Education, and it probably will, it'll start this coming school year. All right, we'll be back to wrap up today's edition on Sports Radio AM 13 Under the Zone. One more thought on this Joey Chestnut thing. So Joey Chestnut is not going to compete in the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest because he's now representing another hot dog brand, Impossible Foods company that makes plant-based hot dogs, and a competing company to Nathan's. The event organizer, George Shea, said it would be like Michael Jordan saying to Nike, I'm going to represent Adidas too. So can't do it. So, but I'll tell you what, you know how Cam, I mentioned how one of the things that I would like to do is I'd like to be able to call an auction, call a square dance, right? And what else did I say? Because they all involve elocutionary skill. I guess a horse race might be one of them. But I'd also like to be the dude that's like the PA MC guy for the hot dog eating contest. If for no other reason, because I'd wear the sport jacket, the tie, and the straw bowler hat. Not bowler. It's the straw hat that they used to wear back in the day. It's not a bowler, but the straw hat. Anyway, yeah, that would be fun. So it'd be an awful lot of fun to be there for that. But no more Joey Chestnut. And remember, Kobayashi just retired pretty recently. We had that story on Inconceivable probably last month, I think it was. So does Kobayashi come out of retirement to challenge that? Or is there a new person out there hungry to win the title?
I like that. Is there a Carlos Alcaraz type? He's just waiting
there. I like the headline that ESPN had about it. It says, Chestnut out of hot dog contest over sponsor beef.
Yes. Whoever the editor is on that, great job.
Yeah,
job well done.
Absolutely. Get you an attaboy for that one. Understood
the assignment.
Yes. Tomorrow, Keith Moreland will join us. We'll preview the College World Series. Which ACC or SEC team's going to win the title? Because there's going to be one or the other. Only two conferences represented for that deal. We'll visit with him and a preview of Game 3 of the NBA Finals, which is tomorrow night. All right. For the producer, Cameron Parker, I'm Craig Way. Thank you for joining us. Invite you back tomorrow. Come on back. Look forward to visiting with you again. Tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock. Stay tuned. Covino and Rich, Fox Sports Radio is up next. Round Rock Express baseball, weather permitting tonight against the Tacoma Rainiers. We'll visit with you tomorrow at 2, right here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone.